Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. Getting lost a bit, I think, in the attempted assassination of former President Trump was the arrest of Asif Mashant, who was a Pakistani citizen, Pakistani national, as he's been described, for the assassination planning to not just assassinate former President Trump, but some other high-level officials, government officials in the United States, as well as commit theft of documents and other devices on the computer. Luckily, he approached someone that became a confidential source for the FBI. Now, one of the questions that I think has to be asked, absolutely has to be asked, I'll put the thumbnail on the screen. Pakistani national charged in alleged Trump assassination plot. Is it related to the attempt on July 13th, 2024 in Butler, Pennsylvania? I've heard some news stations already dismiss this already. Guess what, Mr. News Reporter? It's way too early to dismiss whether or not this man here on the screen, Mr. Asif Mashant, can be connected with Thomas Crooks. Much too early. The investigation is way too early. So when news reporters just dismiss this as it's not related, and the feds say the feds don't know yet either. They don't want it to be related, obviously, but you can't wish it away, all right? So I preach on this channel all the time that investigation takes time. And Mr. Asif Mashant was arrested the day before of the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. So he was arrested on July 12th. So for them to already not have a nexus between these two incidents, that doesn't mean there is none. As I said, investigation takes time. And I shake my head when news reporters just say, oh, it's not connected. Well, it's too early to say that. So stop saying that. We have to wait and see how this investigation rolls out. And there was also, before July 13th, the day that there was the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, that there had been some chatter of there was possibly going to be an assassination attempt against Trump coming from Iran. So was this leaked, this incident? Because it was under investigation since April, I believe April of 2024. So this man was under investigation by the FBI. And sometimes you look at things and you say, oh, how stupid was he? He tried to hire some thugs from the streets of Brooklyn to be his shooters. But just remember, the hijackers from 9/11, they went to a flight school in Florida and said they didn't want to know how to fly a plane. They just wanted to know how to fly it while it was up in the air. They didn't need to know how to take off and land because they had no intention of ever taking off and ever landing. What they did have intentions of was crashing a plane into the Twin Towers. So if you think this was far-fetched, how about how far-fetched that was? So we must take these things 100% seriously. Like, he had the capability, he had the financial backing, and that's what they'll be doing now, connecting those dots back to Iran. And till the completion of this investigation, we cannot shake our head and say, oh, was he really? Yes, he was really, and to so early declare that there was no connection between this and the assassination attempt on July 13th is irresponsible. So you heard it from the Sarge, and those are my feelings. So guys, hold on to your hats, hold on to your wig, hold on to your toupee, hold on to your loved ones, hold on to your service dog, because you're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. You're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone.
has to be some common sense.
Yes, sir. They have the car stopped at 10th and Ranch, Michael Byler.
We still don't know who pulled the trigger.
You know, according to the New York Times, the Justice Department charges a Pakistani man in an alleged plot to kill U.S. leaders. This is just right from the New York Times yesterday. Investigators believe that the targets of the man, who had recently spent 2 weeks in Iran, likely included former President Donald Trump. He tried to... the Pakistani man had recently visited Iran, was trying to hire hitmen to plan to assassinate political figures in the U.S. Investigators believe that potential targets likely included former President Donald J. Trump, according to a senior law enforcement official. The man, Asif, there's a picture of him on the screen, Raza Moshant, age 46, was arrested in New York on July 12th, one day before a 20-year-old man, Matthew Crook, shot and slightly wounded Mr. Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania, according to a complaint unsealed in federal court in Brooklyn on Tuesday. Officials said they had no evidence indicating the plot was connected to the shooting in Butler, PA, but they said the arrest of Mr. Mashant, who had recently spent 2 weeks in Iran, had disrupted what they characterized as a far-ranging plot that also included seeking to steal computer files from U.S. officials. U.S. intelligence agencies were tracking a potential Iranian assassination plot against Mr. Trump in the weeks before the assassination attempt that prompted the Secret Service to enhance security for the former president before his outdoor campaign rally in Pennsylvania. Oh, they really enhanced his security? That's a surprise to me. That's what they called enhanced security? Pathetic if that was the enhanced security. Absolutely ridiculous. It's not clear if the scheme made public on Tuesday precipitated those moves. Oh, yes, they upped the security. We all know how well they upped it. Mr. Bashant orchestrated a plot to assassinate U.S. government officials and steal information on U.S. soil, prosecutors wrote in documents unsealed on Tuesday. After spending time in Iran, Bashant flew from Pakistan to the U.S. to recruit hitmen to carry out his scheme. And I'll go over the arrest affidavit later on, but... So, yeah, that sounds pretty far-fetched, right? Really? This guy went to the streets of Brooklyn. Who did he liaison with? Did he go to some, organized crime thug? Say, will you get me 2 hitmen? This is what I have in mind. And we're going against your country. Sometimes even the mafia hitmen are loyal to the United States. But here he tries to hire a couple of hitmen to do these government hits. And at the same time, he wanted to hire people to do demonstrations against the U.S. relative to all the political unrest we see. So this is ABC News on their report on this just recently. So this is not getting probably the attention it really should get, but we'll play this from ABC News.
Pakistani national in connection with an alleged plot to assassinate former President Donald Trump. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky joins me now. So what do we know about this man and what he was planning?
Kira, his name is Asif Merchant, and he entered the United States, according to federal prosecutors in Brooklyn, in April. And while he was here in the United States, he made phone calls trying to hire hitmen to carry out his alleged scheme to assassinate government officials on U.S. soil. The criminal complaint does not mention former President Trump by name, but multiple sources familiar with this case say one of the intended targets was former President Trump. The hitmen that Asif Merchant allegedly contacted ended up being confidential sources of the FBI. So there was never any real danger here because it seems the feds were onto this man from the start. They followed him for several months and arrested him July 12th, just before he was about to board a flight and leave the country. Kira, the arrest July 12th, you'll note, is one day before former President Trump's rally in Butler, Pennsylvania, when there was an attempt on the former president's life, although these two things are not believed to be connected.
But, I just want to raise a flag right there. Again, this is, early on, this is August 7th. The shooting happened on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania. This man, Asif Merchant, was arrested on July 12th. How could we be so stupid to already declare it's not related? We cannot do that. And I just get it. It annoys the hell out of me that they report it like this, because even the FBI, I'm sure they're wishing and hoping this isn't connected, but they cannot say that it's not connected. They have said themselves in these hearings, these congressional hearings, these senatorial hearings, that they still haven't completed their investigation on Thomas Crooks. They haven't gotten into some of his encrypted devices. They haven't gotten into some of his computer databases. So how can they just declare these are not related? You cannot. And stop doing it, mainstream media. It just drives me crazy. From the chat, Margaret DeYounger, Sergeant Bill, remember the terrorist of the Twin Towers, February 1993, that rented the U-Haul van in his real name and went back to get his deposit back. Not the brightest either. Margaret DeYounger, not many people know that story. That's 100% absolutely true. And it's with the theme that criminals are dumb. They are not very bright bulbs, So, and what credit card did he use? Did he also use his own credit card to rent that U-Haul? I would love to. He probably did, because if he goes back, he used his own name. It's just, crazy, right? He could have used his own name because he had to show his license and someone else's credit card. But it's incredible, right? The stupidity. And here's a guy comes into the country, a Pakistani national, and he has this evil deed he's trying to plan, right? And what does he do? He calls 1-800-THUG to be the shooters. Like, who's he calling? Does he have people that he's already connected with? That people from the underground world, the world of crime, does he know who to call? 1-800-HITMAN? What is it? Who's this guy calling? That's what I want to know.
All right. So no evidence in any way, shape, or form that they could have shared information or were connected in any way. Two separate incidents at this point.
So it seems, Kira, that the FBI has said they found no connection between Thomas Crooks, the 20-year-old who took a shot at Trump in Pennsylvania, and any foreign operatives. But we did learn, subsequent to the rally and the assassination attempt, that the Secret Service had made adjustments to the security plan for the rally because of a thinking that Iran did have this desire to go after former President Trump. Perhaps now we know what gave them that indication. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why those security adjustments were made.
That is absolutely hysterical. Security adjustments. That was their adjustments? What they did on July 13th was an adjustment for the security of the former president? That was the most horrific security I've ever seen. There's better security at a Little League baseball game, But, the press will just report what they want to report. It's just incredible what the nonsense they report. Oh, there's absolutely zero connection that we could see they say, at this time. Okay. But we all know, as is preached by Sergeant Bill, that investigation takes time. And you cannot say that all of a sudden, there's absolutely zero connection. Stop it now. It's just ridiculous. This is NBC's a little report on this. And they all sort of give the same talking points. It's like they're working together, the lockstep,
A major announcement by Attorney General Merrick Garland this afternoon. The Department of Justice has indicted a Pakistani national who has ties to Iran for allegedly plotting to assassinate government officials on American soil. A senior law enforcement official tells NBC News the former President Trump was one of the potential targets of the foil plot. According to the indictment unsealed today, Asif Merchant spent time in Iran before traveling to the U.S., where he tried to hire a pair of hitmen to carry out the assassination plot. The hitmen, however, were actually undercover law enforcement officers. Attorney General Garland said today that there is no evidence of any links between this plot and the attempted assassination of the former president last month in Pennsylvania. Joining me now is NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And so, Ken, what more do we know about this foiled assassination attempt?
Ryan, Merchant was actually arrested the day before Donald Trump was shot in Butler, Pennsylvania, as he was trying to leave the country. But as you said, officials are stressing there is no connection. That's just a bizarre coincidence. But
No, stop it again. Here we go. There is no connection. There is no connection. This guy's the senior security correspondent. He should have learned something in his career.
what is true, according to court documents, is that this man who had ties to Iran and was a Pakistani national came to the United States in April with the intention of orchestrating this elaborate murder for hire plot. And the first person he talked to about it either was or ended up being a confidential source for the FBI. So basically turn him in right away. And after that, the FBI began a sting operation. And as you said, introduced him to people he thought were hitmen, but were actually undercover law enforcement agents. And so they have the whole thing recorded. They have evidence. They have a cocktail napkin with part of the scheme. What he said was he wanted them to steal information from a particular target. He wanted them to gin up protests in certain areas, and he wanted them to assassinate a politician, not named in this criminal complaint, but we're told by a senior official that among the potential targets was Donald Trump, because what this is Iranian retribution for the killing of Qasem Soleimani, that Quds Force general ordered targeted killing by Donald Trump. And this is one of a string of plots already uncovered attributed to the Iranians, including an assassination plot against former National Security Advisor John Bolton and a plot against an Iranian dissident in New York City. This is the latest, and Attorney General Merrick Garland said today that he believes that we haven't heard the last of this, that the Iranians will continue this, what he called brazen and persistent plotting. But in this case, this would-be assassin or orchestrator was quickly gobbled up by the FBI, and he is now in custody.
And very quickly, Ken, are these murder for hire plots? Is this something that we hear about often?
Well, this is, as I said, this is the latest. There have been several of these. And yes, what the U.S. government has said that this is an ongoing scheme by the Iranian government. It's not clear exactly what they're doing about it, but this is one of a number, only the latest. And Merrick Garland said potentially more to come, Ryan.
Okay, and this on the day we find out that Tim Walz has now gotten Secret Service protection. Obviously, the Secret Service. So,
there you have it. But, Mike, I have some questions, though, and that I'd like to throw out to you guys. How does someone who's allegedly sent by the government of Iran, how does he just so happen to hook up with two FBI undercovers? That sounds a little bit fugazi to me, to use a New York word. It sounds a little strange that he's looking to get a couple of hitmen, and he somehow hooks up with two confidential sources, as they referred to in the arrest affidavit, in the complaint affidavit. He just so happens to meet an FBI agent, an undercover FBI agent. I'm just not, I have a little bit of a problem with that, to tell you the truth. I'm just thinking that, okay, and there's absolutely no nexus between this. He's arrested, Asif Moshant. He's arrested on July 12th, and on July 13th, Thomas Crooks attempts to assassinate Donald Trump. In the process of that, shoots and kills a volunteer fire chief, Corey Comparator, and shoots two other individuals who are in critical condition. So, but right now we know there's absolutely zero nexus between the two things. No, we don't know that. Kami from the chat gifted one police off the cuff membership. Kami, thank you so much. Absolutely 100% appreciated. So guys, I'm just very, there wasn't much coverage on this either. He was sort of arrested quietly and removed. Gail Hurd also gifted one police off the cuff membership. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Folks, this is Police Off the Cuff, real crime stories. If you like real crime, true crime from a police perspective, then you're in the right place. And if you're not subscribed, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, ring that bell. And if you want to contribute to us financially, we have a Patreon with 4 different levels And we also have a YouTube channel membership with, count 'em, 5 different levels. And we appreciate all our fans, our friends, and our subscribers that keep this channel going. I'm going to go right now to the arrest affidavit that it says, count 1, murder for hire, from at least in or about April 2024 through July 2024, both dates being approximate and inclusive within the Eastern District of New York and elsewhere. The defendant, Asif Mashant, also known as Asif Raza Mashant, together with others, did knowingly and intentionally travel in an interstate and foreign commerce, to wit, from outside the United States to the United States and from Texas to New York, and use and cause another to use a facility of interstate and foreign commerce, to wit, a cellular telephone, with intent that a murder be committed in violation of the laws of the state and the United States, as consideration for the receipt of and consideration for promise and agreement to pay a thing of pecuniary value. That's a fancy word for money, you know. So the defendant, who we see on the screen, Asif Mashant, also known as Asif Raza Mashant, is a citizen of Pakistan. He was born in approximately 1978 in Karachi, Pakistan. Mashant has stated he currently resides in Pakistan. He also stated he has a wife and children in Pakistan, and he also has a wife and children in Iran. In his travel records to enter the United States, Mashant indicated frequent travel to Iran, Syria, and Iraq. So basically, it talks about how he comes here and he recruits some what's known as a confidential source. On or about April 10th, Mashant flew from Pakistan to Istanbul into Houston, Texas, on or about April 13th, to recruit individuals to carry out his plot to assassinate U.S. government officials. Soon after arriving in the U.S., Mashant contacted the confidential source under the guise of wanting to discuss potential business opportunities to the U.S. On or about April 22nd, 2024, Mashant traveled from Texas to New York to meet with the confidential source in person. Mashant told the confidential source that he and his uncle in Pakistan sold yard-dyed clothing and suggested that the confidential source help Mashant sell the clothing in the U.S. Mashant instructed the confidential source to create a corporation in the U.S. that would name. Anyway, he lays the groundwork for all of this. And what he really was attempting to do was to recruit a couple of shooters, people that would shoot and kill government officials in the U.S. And unluckily, or luckily for us and unluckily for him, he recruited a FBI undercover, or someone who decided to trade the information to the FBI for money. That will never be told to us here. And he created a whole thing of coded language that they would use. You see on in this thumbnail on the screen, that was $5,000 in cash, which the confidential source insisted be paid to him in person and in cash, or delivered by a courier, because if it was put into an account with like directly into a bank, it would be very difficult to pin that on Asif Mashant. So it was delivered by a courier, but it was in cash. So now they have this evidence of the $5,000 that changed hands, that they can use as evidence against Asif Mashant. So the $5,000 completes the transaction, and that basically puts Asif Mashant in this, really like a good evidence against him, and that's a beautiful thing that they got him to do that, because while he was trying to trick everyone else, they tricked him to delivering cash to the confidential source. All the while, the FBI was recording all of this and collecting the evidence, and no one, of course, got killed based on this guy's transactions, this guy's deals. Carol Grayston gifted 5 police off-the-cuff memberships. Thank you so much, Carol. Very much appreciate. Carol is one of our moderators, does a fantastic job. So at some point, the transaction is made. The money has changed hands, and Asif Mashant goes to flee the country on the 12th of July. And at that point, the decision is made. The decision is made to take him down, to arrest him. And he's arrested on July 12th. Now, one of the first things, of course, the FBI is going to do is they're going to debrief him. They're going to interview him. They're going to interrogate him. And we don't know what the results of that interview and interrogation was. Only the FBI does. And we may never know what the results of that interview and interrogation was. However, again, is there a nexus between Asif Mashant and the attempted assassination on July 13th? Let's remember the day that Asif Mashant was arrested was the day before the actual shooting by Thomas Crooks in Butler, Pennsylvania. Is it coincidental? Is it related? What do we think? Do we trust our investigators? Are we trusting the FBI? That's a question I have, because we've seen all these cases go down, and everyone would have thought that we will have tremendous confidence in our Secret Service. And I don't think there's a person in this nation now that has any confidence in the U.S. Secret Service. And that wasn't always the truth, but it is now.
To some other big headlines that we are following now. A Pakistani man with ties to Iran has been charged in a plot to potentially assassinate former President Trump. Federal sources claiming the man was also looking to possibly kill other government officials from both sides of the aisle. Do want to bring in Nate Foy with Fox News following all of the developments here. Good afternoon, Nate. A lot to this.
Yeah, certainly. So the criminal complaint was unsealed yesterday. It doesn't mention any specific politicians by name, but Attorney General Merrick Garland says that it's related to the 2020 assassination of Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. He was killed in a drone strike ordered by former President Donald Trump. So take a look at this Pakistani national who was arrested a few weeks ago at this point, but we just learned of this yesterday. His name is Asif Mashant. He visited Iran 2 weeks before coming to the United States back in April, and former President Donald Trump reacted to his arrest on Fox and Friends this morning. Listen to this.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'm in a very dangerous business. Being president is a dangerous thing. And especially when you're an active president, when you're somebody that wants to make our country secure, when you want to build a strong military.
So U.S. officials say this is unrelated to the attempted assassination of Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th. But keep in mind, federal agents arrested Mashant just one day before that rally. Mashant sketched out assassination scenarios on a napkin in a New York City hotel room. He told a confidential informant that his targets hurt Pakistan and the Muslim world. Mashant had 3 objectives with different code words for each one. Take a look at this. This was found in his wallet during his arrest. T-shirt on the note meant starting a protest that was meant to be a diversion during an assassination attempt. Flannel shirt meant stealing documents or USB drives from a target's home, and fleece jacket meant murdering a target. Now, Mashant even paid undercover agents who he believed to be assassins a $5,000 advance to do the job. Now, he told them that he would communicate the targets, the people that they should kill, when he left the country. Instead, before he could do that, thankfully, he got arrested. The assassinations were supposed to happen as part of his plan by the end of this month or the beginning of next month. But thankfully, federal agents were able to stop that plan.
So it's, when we look at these actual plans of actual criminals make these plans, and we say, thank God they're so stupid, thank God did he really go to Brooklyn and try to recruit people to shoot U.S. government officials? I made a joke out of it before 1-800 Hitman, but that's basically what he was doing, going to recruit some thugs. And do you think you can trust thugs? Can you trust the criminal element to work with you? Absolutely not. So it's totally outrageous. Bobby Chacon, who is a frequent flyer on this show, was on Law and Crime Network, and he's one of the clearest speaking talking heads and most experienced FBI agents. And I really like when he's on these shows, and he's been on my show numerous times. We're friends, and we don't always agree, but something, he's FBI, NYPD, we'll never agree, but he's a real smart guy. I want to play a little bit of this from his appearance on Law and Order the other day. Law and Crime, excuse me, not Law and Order, Law and Crime. With Anganette Levy. Here we go.
Crux is somebody who's been following this case very closely. He's retired FBI agent Bobby Chacon. He's also an attorney. Bobby, I find this report in the Wall Street Journal incredibly interesting. The fact that Thomas Crooks was actually able to get a drone up in the air, according to the Wall Street Journal, to survey this area. It's shocking to me because I always thought the Secret Service goes in and they kind of shut these areas down. They do an assessment and they make sure that nobody is doing anything like that. So what are your thoughts on that report?
Well, I think mine are the same as yours. A bit shocked that he was able to get a drone. Not that he was able to get a drone, but most 20-year-old young men can operate drones. It's part of the culture now. But the fact that Secret Service didn't have that space locked down hours, if not days, in advance of a former president and now presidential candidate appearance there. And so I think that they have to start looking into very carefully into how they handle these things in the future. But yeah, it was shocking that the amount of access he had and the drone, fact that he was able to kind of gain more intelligence than they had apparently on this overall site, because I don't know if they ever had flown a drone over there. Certainly they didn't have one the day of the event, and I'm not sure they had one in the days leading up to it when they were putting their plan together.
Drones are pretty simple, as you mentioned. Any 20-year-old, I think a lot of 10-year-olds these days can operate a drone and get one up in the air. And I actually talked to a law enforcement officer that I know pretty well who told me, we send a drone up in the air for $100 drug deal for surveillance. So how on earth the Secret Service didn't have drones in the air and how this kid was able to get a drone up in the air is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, because you could have used it both to do the planning, like I said, in those now famous aerial shots we've seen of the site, and you can pick out that roof as one of the most vulnerable points just from the air. Just, if you're on the ground, it might look a little different, but certainly from the air, when you look at it on those aerial shots with a drone would have given them, you can see that roof as the closest, most dangerous point and that an adversary might exploit. And then, of course, during the operation, that's leading up to it. And during the operation, if you had a drone up, you would have been able to see him immediately get on that roof, knowing he's not one of your team, and call for Trump to get off that stage immediately. Instead, they were relying on people. We've seen now those same famous videos, the woman's yelling, he's got a gun, he's on the roof, and all these bystanders are trying to notify cops. Well, there's a lag time, there's a delay in the response there because of that. And so, to avoid that, if you had a drone up, just constantly an eye in the sky watching, the minute that he breached that roof and was crawling up there, they would have called it out. Trump would have been rushed off the stage, and the team could have been sent to respond to that threat. Instead, that did not happen, and we know the consequences.
There's another report out from the Daily Beast, and I found this interesting too. And it said that a law enforcement source told the Daily Beast that Thomas Crooks, his last internet search before this shooting was for pornography. And apparently the experts will tell you that that's not incredibly unusual. Even among school shooters and mass shooters, pornography is apparently a common factor or thread, the viewing of pornography among these people. Do you have any experience with that? Have you seen this in the past? And is there a strange kind of maybe a sexual frustration component with these people who carry out these mass shootings?
Yes, I mean, I spoke to, and I have some very good friends who are FBI profilers, former FBI profilers. They're retired now. And I spoke to them about this very topic. And one of their takes was, there's this incel community that's out there, and then there's kind of varying degrees of people that fall into that incel category, that involuntarily celibate category. In other words, these are guys that are, for whatever reason, the niches they were in middle school and high school prevented them from developing normal relationships with girls or whatever their sexual orientation is. And so they are involuntarily celibate. And, that there's a certain frustration that grows out of that. And the internet has given them a place to kind of commiserate on that. And they can't establish that normal romantic or physical relationships with their chosen gender that they're attracted to. And so they watch pornography, and that's their outlet for that. And so there were early reports that he might be an incel or one of these incel type people. And so I'm sure that part of the FBI investigation, talking to his family, talking to his friends, did he ever have a girlfriend? Did he have a boyfriend? Did he ever have any relationship, physical or otherwise, with another person? And so I'm sure they're looking into that. But yeah, that is not an uncommon category of people that engage in these kind of activities.
An involuntary celibate obviously means they don't want to be. It's just that they aren't able to, for whatever reason, have a sexual relationship with somebody, whether it's of the different sex, same sex, what have you. This guy's been described as a loner. That's not something uncommon that we hear among.
I think that Thomas Crooks, at least, he fit the profile of an active shooter. Sort of a loner. Didn't have any friends. Now they're just telling us Bobby Chacon is that he's potentially part of this incel community, this involuntarily celibate community, people that they just don't have the skills to attract or to engage with the sex that they are attracted to. And they're part of this involuntary celibate community on the internet. They also had insinuated that Brian Koberger from the Idaho 4 murders, who's in jail right now awaiting trial, that he potentially was also part of the incel community, and that potentially could be a motive for the murder of the Idaho 4 students. So this is quite interesting. But Thomas Crooks did fit, the other thing, he was bullied. Remember, that goes all the way back to Columbine, one of the most famous active shooters, Harris and Klebold, 2 students who were bullied, that went to school with guns and bombs and all of those things. And that was one of the most publicized active shooters in our nation's history. But had Thomas Crooks not been taken down very quickly by the Secret Service sniper, he would have kept shooting till he was stopped. I have no doubt in my mind. He brought 3 magazines. Each had 30 rounds. He had 90 rounds available to him in his magazines. I don't know if he had additional rounds anywhere else, but that's how many rounds. He would have kept shooting until he was empty, or until, well, luckily he was taken out by the Secret Service sniper very quickly.
People who carry out these types of things. He was described as somebody in high school. He's only 20 years old when he carries this shooting out, but he is somebody who was described as in high school as being a loner. He was bullied, things like that. I mean, this seems like textbook stereotypical type things for the way that this guy was described.
Yeah, absolutely. And what that does, how that impacts an individual like this, is that when all of us who are not loners, say, when we have a social circle or a network of friends or family that we normally talk to on a regular basis, it tends to moderate us a little bit. If we're going down an emotional or an intellectual highway that is not good for us, or that is not based in reason, there's somebody there to kind of moderate that. There's somebody to kind of get us back on the road and talk to you, kind of makes you think differently. But if you're a loner and you go down one of these dark places, one of these roads, and there's nobody there in your social circle or your family circle, because you're a loner, to moderate you and to moderate those views and to kind of, maybe get you to think about things in a different way, then you continue down that dark path. And without that network, without that social support, these loner types then tend to, viciously go down and down and down and down that rabbit hole, and there's no one there to kind of moderate those views or to get them to think about things a little differently.
Do you think we'll ever know what motivated this guy? I mean, he had pictures of famous people. It wasn't just Trump. He had photos of Biden reportedly on his phone, Princess Kate, Fonnie Willis, all kinds of different people.
You know, I think that, the media and they're always obsessed with motive. And obviously this guy, Thomas Crooks, was taken out very quickly. And when they go and look at his digital footprint, I'm sure the FBI knows a lot more right now than we know. But apparently early on in the investigation, they didn't know very much from looking at his digital footprint that they claimed he really didn't have a significant digital footprint. From the chat, Amber Gloria, my son was bullied. He also a loner and plays video games. He also takes all AP classes and the top lineman in his district. Lots of kids get bullied, and being a teenager is hard. So many excuses. Amber Gloria, you're 100%. You know something? Part of growing up where I grew up was you got bullied. You know, I played sports my whole life, and the JV got abused by the varsity. And I'm sure in this day and age, the coaches would never allow that. Back in my day, they frowned upon it, and they actually started doing something about it right around the time I was a sophomore in high school. Because prior to that, the varsity was vicious. The varsity football team was vicious with the JV team. That would never, ever happen today because, again, coaches would lose their job over something like that. So, when we look at this case, is my big question and the whole dissertation of this is there any connection between the assassination attempt on July 13th and the arrest on July 12th of this man, Asif Mashant, who came to this country with a plan and with money and tried to hire shooters that would take out U.S. officials. There's to the right on this thumbnail you see on the screen is $5,000 in cash in $100 bills. And of course, the FBI and their confidential sources, they wanted it in cash so they would have evidence. And I'm sure the person that delivered this, and I don't believe it was Asif Mashant, they grabbed him too. He was the courier. They had someone deliver this cash. And he had a little clandestine plan. Let the courier know a serial number on a $1 bill that you have. Give it to him so that when he gets to the scene and you show it to him, he'll know that he's given the money to the right guy. Wow, how brilliant. Espionage, But he wouldn't deliver it himself. But now the FBI has that cash. Whereas if they would have sent it electronically, he would have the defense of, I don't know where they sent that from. I have no idea. If they sent it from some place that was somewhat untraceable, they wouldn't be able to trace it back to this man, Asif Mashant. I love that he has two families. He has a family in Iran and he has a family in Pakistan. So, where did they get this guy? When they look deeply into his background, what is his background? I would love to know that. Tom Keene from the chat, if the guy from Pakistan was arrested a day before Trump was shot, did the FBI give this information to the Secret Service? Trump should have been given more protection. Tom Keene, you're 100% correct. But I think, Tom, that this was out even before he was arrested on the 12th. There was information. I remember there was information that there was a threat, that there was a terrorist threat, that there was a threat coming from Iran, that they were looking to take out Trump for for his role in taking out their leader Soleimani. So they were looking to, and several other people from Trump's administration, also some other high-level Biden, some other high-level government officials. Darlene Griffiths from the chat, Crooks was mentally disturbed. He wanted to kill someone famous before he was taken out by cops. Darlene, that's, most active shooters end up either A, taking their own life, or B, being shot. Most of them don't survive. So yeah, that's Erica Olson. I dislike labeling people with tags like incel. It's a cop out to me. Everyone blames hormones. I think a bigger part is kids are not taught how to interact in real life. Only electronics. Erica, I think that's so true, that the internet and cell phones and video games, I believe they're damaging. And to us too, adults. I mean, I'm hooked. I admit it. I'm hooked to my cell phone. Do I need to have all of that immediate notification? It's convenient, right? Do I need to have these immediate emails? I have 3 or 4 different email addresses, but that's mostly for this show. But do I need all of that communication? Do I need that? The answer is no. I could survive without it, right? Gregory Alinsky, weird that they knew since the day before the 13th, but story comes out now. Weird. Well, Gregory, it actually, the affidavit, the arrest affidavit came out yesterday. I don't know the specific date when they announced the arrest, but he was arrested on July 12th. They didn't announce it right away. You're right. Is there something fugazi about that, to use my New York word? Margaret the Younger, the suspect arrived in the U.S. in April. So this was an ongoing plan. You can read the arrest affidavit is available online. You can get it. In fact, I was reading from it before. The plan on a cocktail napkin doesn't sound like a professional. Tom, I don't know if you're former NYPD, but the whole plan for Comstat was written on a cocktail napkin by Jack Maple to the executives of the NYPD. So yeah, some things you write on what's available, right? And I believe it was written on a napkin inside a bar. And I think it was in Elaine's. That's how the story goes. NJ Pat 65, regardless, that shows they really weren't protecting Trump. They could have been more of them. Absolutely. Eastern Kiwi, the arrest of this Pakistani the day before the attempted Trump assassination should have upped the level of security, not slacked it off as happened. Eastern Kiwi, you're preaching to the choir. You're 100% correct. The security they provided Trump on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania was disgraceful. Absolutely. There was no excuse for it. It was disgraceful. Doug Kaplan, how did they find him? How far did he get? He looks like a useful idiot to me. Doug, I don't know what you're expecting a criminal to look like, but none of them look like rocket scientists. This is him right here on the screen. I mean, he could be anyone. He could be a scientist. He could be a cab driver. He could be a government official. He could be a financial analyst. He could be anything. So we can't ever judge a book by its cover. That's him. Pac-Man arrested for plot to kill Trump. I love how they use that Pac-Man. So yes, I'm concerned about this, and I want this investigation to be transparent. Is it ever transparent? I don't know. They'd like to use that word transparent, but is there a nexus? Is there a connection? And let's not accept that they just say there isn't and you accept it. Isn't your job as news reporters to dig, shine a light on it? And let's make sure, let's not just believe our government because it suits your purposes to believe it. I think we have to dig and see if in fact there is a nexus between Asif Merchant and Thomas Crooks. And I think it's too early to eliminate that possibility. Gregory Alinsky, and this was the first time using counter snipers with all these known threats. Weird. Gregory, I agree. You're right. What if those counter snipers weren't there that day? I think we'd have one dead former president and many people dead in the crowd. It's absolutely horrific. Sour Girl from the chat. It's the blank eyes with no warmth. We all have been through BS. I'm tired of the labels and excuses. Heather, whatever. My internet went down several times this summer. Gosh, it's become quite an addiction. Yeah, guys, I know, you couldn't listen to Police Off the Cuff if your internet went down. My God, what would you do with your life? You'd survive. You'd survive. But I want you to come back, but you'd survive, DH, he needed a visa. Great vetting U.S. Embassy. Well, something, I think that should raise a flag, all the trips that he did between Iran, Pakistan, U.S., Iran, Pakistan, Iraq. all of those on his passport, shouldn't that raise a flag? Shouldn't he be quizzed when he Gail Hurd from the chat, thank you so much for the police off the cuff membership, gifting it. Thank you so much. Very much appreciated. Guys, again, I see some new names in the chat. If you're not subscribed, go on our YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It's free to subscribe. Just give us a thumbs up, subscribe, hit the like button, share us with your friends and your family. Margaret the Younger, Supreme Commander, thank you so much. Sherry Wilson from the chat, disgraceful, inadequate. Who needs protection like that? Yes, it is absolutely disgraceful. Victoria Davis, they can get these terrorists, but can't get a kid that tried to murder Trump off a roof when he was pointed out to them. Embarrassing. Look, if you've watched any of the hearings now, the hearings, Texas Life, Julie, mainstream media is a joke, in my opinion. Well, you know, they need to dig things, not just dig things based on their own political opinion, but dig into things that you can't just accept what your government says. You know, you have to look, you have to dig. You know, this has been going on since April. This guy's Asif Mashant has been planning this, and yet we just heard about it. It didn't make a big splash, did it? Though we did hear prior to this that there was a threat coming from Iran. This is how the Pakistani news reported this story. I'll play a little bit of this.
Focus we're on right now. The U.S. Justice Department has charged a Pakistani man with trying to hire a hitman to assassinate political figures in the U.S. The potential target includes the recent incident of assassination attempt on former U.S. President Donald Trump. The department has also alleged Asif Merchant to have ties with the Iranian government for planned assassinations in the U.S. However, officials have said that they have no evidence to prove the connection between Merchant and the rally shooting as per the department. Merchant has been arrested for disrupting, and I'm quoting here, far-ranging plot. It also includes seeking to steal sensitive computer files from U.S. officials. Let's get you some context of this case right now. Now, Merchant was arrested in New York on the 12th of July, which was a day before Thomas Matthew Crooks shot at and also injured Trump at a Pennsylvania rally on July 13th, when the assassination attempt took place. And a week before this attack, U.S. intelligence services tracked an Iranian assassination plot against Donald Trump. This also prompted the Secret Service to increase security for his Butler rally. As per an affidavit included with the FBI charges, the department revealed that Merchant had been in contact with a source to plan criminal acts, including meeting with hitmen. The source, which the department has kept confidential, reported Merchant's plan to the law enforcement. After this, Merchant was put in touch with 2 U.S. law enforcement officers who were undercover as hitmen. The FBI has also linked Merchant to the foiled Iranian attempt of assassinating the former U.S. National Security Advisor, John Bolton, in 2022. And this came as revenge for the 2020 killing of Qasem Soleimani, an officer in Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps. In April 2024, Merchant told another source to help him carry out his plans. This time, it also included protest over American treatment of Muslim countries. In June, Merchant mapped out the assassination of, and I'm quoting, a people who are hurting Pakistan and the Muslim world. This contact too turned Merchant into the law enforcement. The informer revealed that Merchant offered him $5,000 in advance payment. The whole amount of $100,000 was promised for after the work was done. Now, during the interrogation, Merchant did not reveal who his potential targets were. However, he did specify that it was not normal people, rather people who were after, people he was after were the American political figures. He also told his informants that he was planning the killing for late August, early September. While it's unclear who he worked with, as per the FBI document, Merchant has wives in Pakistan and Iran. And now, Merchant's case was thoroughly read by different agencies, including the Secret Service.
So, this good report from Pakistan, I think she covered a lot of ground there. But again, is there a nexus? Is there a connection between what happened on July 13th with Thomas Crooks, the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, and the planning and the arrest of Asif Mashant? Is there any connection? Again, as I discussed earlier, it's too early to say that there's absolutely zero connection. I don't think you could say that. I think it's much too early, and as we all know, as I preach all the time, investigation takes time. And are we ready to fold up the tent and say, no, that's it, we don't believe that there's any connection? I think that they've had a lot of problems going through the digital footprint of Thomas Crooks. A lot of problems. So how can they just say that it's not connected? So the Justice Department said on Tuesday that it charged a Pakistani man who had recently visited Iran with trying to hire a hitman to assassinate political figures in the U.S. Investigators believe that potential targets likely included former President Donald Trump, according to a senior law enforcement official. The man, Asif Raza Mashant, 46, was arrested in New York on July 12th, one day before a 20-year-old Matthew Crook shot at and slightly wounded Trump during a rally in Pennsylvania. So all of those things we all know, but this didn't receive a lot of press. It didn't really receive a lot of news. It was being told to us that there is no connection here. There's absolutely no connection. And again, as I said, I think it's too soon to say that. And we'll wait. We can await the rest of this investigation and to see where it goes, where it's likely going to go to. And in this investigation, is Mashant the fall guy, say, for Iran? He's the one that took all the risks. He's the one that came here with the plan. He's the one that came here and met with some, what turned out to be, they're called in the FBI report, confidential sources, right? So, but now, will we find out any more about this, or will the FBI, if called upon, hide behind what they always do? Oh, this is an active investigation, we can't talk about it. I think that with all of this happening, this attempted assassination and the congressional hearings, the senatorial hearings, them trying to get to the bottom of this, I don't think they should allow the FBI to say this is under investigation. The guy's under arrest. And I think you could reveal some of the things that you know. Blue Lazaro from the chat, one thing we know by this early pronouncement is they want us to think there's zero connection between hitmen. Blue Lazaro, I'm suspicious also, and I want to know. I'm not ready to clear anyone, and I'm not ready to say there's not a nexus between Thomas Crooks and Asif Mashant. Right now, it appears there's zero, but how do we know? How do we know? How do we know that Thomas Crooks wasn't paid or taught by the same people who hired Asif Mashant? How do we know he wasn't tutored on the internet, tutored by phone, instructed, taught how to do certain things? We don't know that yet. Doug Ross from the chat, they would have had some contact Sarge, and the way they have ways of finding out communication is hard to fault, and they could find out. Yeah, but Doug, you know something? They do have all these technical things, but the FBI has already said they've had a hard time getting into Thomas Crooks's social media and into his cell phone, and into some of his digital footprint was encrypted. So yes, they have all these things, but you know something? We've saw incompetence. We've seen gross incompetence. So I'm not going to just lay praise on all these people. You got the most impressive and expensive toys, espionage toys, and listening devices, and search warrants, and district attorneys, and U.S. attorneys, and all these people that can do amazing things. But if the boots on the ground aren't doing their job, which we saw the Secret Service did not do, we can't just praise these people because of their reputations. It turns out the Secret Service reputation of being one of the best protective agency in the world isn't deserved. Is 100% not deserved. Would you say it's deserved? Would anyone in the chat say, oh, yes, I still feel the Secret Service are the greatest protective agency in the world? Tell you the truth, I'm not one of them. I'm not saying that, you know? So is there a nexus? And that was my whole dissertation, today's show. On the thumbnail on the screen, Pakistani national charged in alleged Trump assassination plot. Is it related to the attempt on 7/13/24? Our government officials tell us no. I think we have to wait till the investigation proceeds before we start jumping on that bandwagon. And when I find out more, I will 100% absolutely report it to you guys. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. I thought this was an important topic. Didn't see many people were covering it, so I decided to cover it during the afternoon, an early show. Anyway, thank you, folks, for tuning in. I'm Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. Have a great day, and God bless everyone.
One episode just ain't enough.